Welcome everybody, my name is Krush AK and this is the Market Meditations podcast. We chat with fascinating people from around the world to extract mindsets, routines, stories and habits to help you build richer lives. If you're looking to learn more about trading, specifically altcoin trading in the crypto market, then this is the episode for you. We have with us today Pierre from Crypto Twitter. He's a well-known altcoin trader and was kind enough to share with us a little bit about himself and his strategies. Pierre, thank you for joining me today. Welcome to the Market Meditations podcast. And man, it's just a pleasure to have you on.
Hey, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me. Pleasure is shared.
Yeah, it's awesome you could make it. I was told by a few people who I actually respect that Pierre really knows his stuff when it comes to altcoin trading. In particular, the fact that you're not just good at altcoin tradings right now, where it's, dartboard market. You throw, you pick anything and eventually it'll go up and you'll make money on it. But you've been able to do it consistently throughout the year for a while.
Well, yeah, I think I'm what we can call a 2017, 2019 bear market made trader. I've basically learned to trade and been trading shitcoins in a general downtrend since I've really started trading. So yeah, I guess I've had to find a way not to rely on the bull market to make money out of altcoins.
Yeah, it's very short-term thinking. It's something I've had to do myself where I could spend all my time right now trying to say, find every single DeFi 100x, but I'm much more interested in the stuff which can consistently make me money for a long period of time. Is that something that you consider or think about during times like this?
Well, this is definitely something I've told to myself at the end of 2017 to beginning 2018, when I realized that we were entering part of a cycle where you cannot just rely on fundamentals, I would say, even if that's a bit stretched. When you cannot basically just pick one altcoin and wait for a timestamp in 2 weeks or less, as we saw during the previous DeFi madness. So yeah, I feel like anyone that wants to be a long-time trader in this market eventually has to go through that moment when you have to say to yourself, I won't be able to, I shouldn't be reliable on bull market and everything going up to be profitable trading altcoins and crypto in general, not just altcoin. It works also for Bitcoin. So yeah, I think this is one of the first real question I thought to myself early 2018, and what made me more interested in trading for real, not just pure gambling. And I think this was the first path to a new mindset and to what trading really is.
Did something trigger you wanting to change your mindset? Did something really good or really bad happen in 2017 for you?
I think the two things, one good, one bad. I think one good thing was I've had the chance to ride Litecoin for a good and solid amount of percentages in 2017, but it was mostly luck. It was mostly based on what I was reading on Crypto Twitter back then. And this was the good thing because it made me money, and I was like, cool, I can basically just follow what a random character says on Twitter and I can make money. I can make stupid money. And on the other way around, early 2018, I remember holding and buying bounces on 2017 altcoins that just kept dying. And these two events, so one on the upside, one on the downside, made me realize that eventually the trend is over, and if you cannot find a way to understand when the trend is over, when the trend is starting, how strong is the trend, you might be able to catch a few things from time to time, but they will most likely not make up for all the losses.
So how do you determine if a trend is starting or ending, or like what are the key things when looking at trends?
I think over the years, I'm not saying that as someone very experienced in trading, but I tend to think that 3 years in crypto is 10 years in regular life. But I think I've seen many trading systems and many different approaches, only to come back to simplicity. And I think for people that are following me, everybody knows that my trading mostly rely on classic horizontal support resistances, nothing complicated, that I try to put in confluence with moving averages. The reason I love moving averages is, and the way I use them, because I know many people use them on different ways, is that I try to use them to understand the trend. Basically, a moving average is just an average value of the price over a period of time. But if you think about it mathematically, it just gives you over that period of time, when compared to another period of time, the difference between the two gives you a positive or a negative value. If the positive value, if the value is positive, it means that it's in an uptrend. If it's negative, it means that it's a downtrend. It can be a very useful tool to understand trends because it smooths the charts away from the noise of candles. I don't know if that sounds clear the way I said, but yeah. So I try to combine a basic use of moving averages and basic horizontal levels with a little bit of experience. And when you know what to look for, you eventually find patterns that keep repeating, and that often signs of market exhaustions or market bottoming, market getting compressed, ready for next expansion. So yeah, I think I would say that moving averages is what helped me the most getting to that point, I would say.
So we're getting really technical right off the bat, but I like that. Moving averages, well, they're not the most complex indicator, as you said. They
Definitely
simply
not.
just give you an average of the past closes, and then you can get some more complex versions like exponential moving averages,
Exactly.
which for our listeners that don't know, that just changes the weighting of the price data to the more recent data. But at the end of the day, they are lagging indicators,
Exactly.
which I'm
Exactly.
sure you know about. That's what makes it, for me, rather that they're not the best way to determine a trend, but they're a good way of having a consistent way of measuring the trend. Do you see what
Exactly.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
say?
yeah, I completely agree with that. This is what I often say to people ask me question about that. The fact that it's lagging make you have different way of approaching the way you trade with moving averages. Obviously, I don't pretend I have the best one at all. I have one that works for me. I often say that with my system, I will rarely catch the bottom and rarely sell the top, but I will most likely manage to ride the trend and exit uh, far above not far away from the top, and enter not far away from the bottom. I think moving averages, because of the lagging fact, can be a very good tool to, what we say, make money in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also why it fits my system, because I'm not a scalper. I'm mainly a swing trader, meaning that for me the main goal is definitely to make money in the middle, if you see what I mean.
Absolutely. And I mean, crypto, it's very early, it's very new, and we know it trends really strong. Like when a trend builds, it lasts a long time and it often overextends. So I guess it doesn't even matter if the indicator's lagging because you're okay to come in a little bit later and exit a little bit quicker.
Yeah, there's that. And as you said, there are different type of moving averages. You have, for the other, I use classic moving averages, simple, I would say. But I also use exponential moving averages, especially on shorter time frame periods, because they can reduce that lag compared to other moving averages. They can be useful on lower time frame periods. But yeah, it's true. We are in a market that is extremely trending. For example, for us, Bitcoin going sideways in a range for 2 months, like we had this year between May and June, July. it feels like it takes ages. People are like, we've been chopping and sideways for ages. Truth is that on other markets, price not moving that much for 2 months isn't crazy, isn't something particular. So yeah, we're in market that is extremely trending, and therefore this is why I think that using indicators, because they are only indicators, let's not forget that, nothing magic about it. Using indicators that can smooth the charts away from the noise of candles can be useful. It can be useful when used correctly.
What do you mean by the noise of candles?
Well, what I mean by that is that if you take a chart and you apply a moving average off of it, you will go from a chart with a lot of noise, with wicks, tops, downs, and things like this, and that might not represent the actual trend it is in, while moving averages and other indicators can do that too, will give you a smooth chart, if you see what I mean.
Yes, it gets rid of anomalies in the price data, for example.
Yeah, anomalies. Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
that's the correct term.
Yeah, it discounts things like Wix, which and open prices as well as well, because most of them just use close prices, which can be advantageous if you're just looking for a simple long-term view. And simplicity makes trading easy. At the end of the day,
exactly.
we're trying to get consistent systems that we can keep executing. And I also love moving averages. That's a big reason why I use them a lot. I have perhaps slight differences in approach to you, but overall, our general understanding, and we seem to be in agreement with most things with regards to moving averages, which makes me feel better about my trading style as well.
Yeah, well, you said something very important. You said that simplicity can make trading better. I don't know if that's the exact term you said, but this is exactly one of the most important thing I've realized when I started trading, but not when I started trading, but after getting wrecked for some time. And this is something I say very often to friends of mine or members that are starting to trade, is that I've spent quite some time studying all the trading systems, much more complex, at least for me, for, I don't know, a little bit more than 2 years in 2016 to 2018, only to realize that I came back to the basics. I ended up going back at the end of the day, building a trading system around horizontal levels and classic moving averages. I came back to simplicity because, and everything went better for me from there. I guess you can have a complex trading system as long as it works for you. That's awesome. But I think simplicity is key, in my opinion.
Yes, the more variables you introduce, the more difficult it is to execute and execute sensibly.
Yeah.
I found most people, as they get better at trading, they do tend to make it simpler, because when you reduce the number of variables, everything gets easier. Backtesting gets way easier because you don't have too many conditions to check every time you look for a setup, especially moving averages. I don't know if you found, but it's also really nice for automated backtesting because you have key triggers you look for, so you instantly get market incidents up as many as you want.
Yeah, there's that. That's also why moving averages can be, they don't have to be, but can be interesting, is because they are very often used in the algo trading world, mostly because most of trading bots rely on the trends and crosses and things like this. And it's much easier for a bot to understand an average value or a comparison of price between two periods of time rather than a raw data, I would say. So yeah, it's very interesting for that part too.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a little bit earlier something I'd like to revisit. You said when you explain to your friends and members. Now, I know a little bit about the Haven, but not as much as I'd like. So yeah, I'd love to hear a bit more about this venture you and your friends have taken on.
Yeah, well, the Haven is a educational trading group that at the basics, it was Loma and I since last summer in 2007, 19, sorry, yeah. It was Loma and I. We were discussing about the possibility to do something like this, and we had a few opportunities that came to us, but we never went for it because we wanted to find two other people we were comfortable doing it with. We didn't want it to find traders that are uh, only traders, I would say. We wanted to find people that are good at explaining, willing to explain, willing to take some time to educate people and to share their thoughts, their how they trade, why they do that. It took us quite some time, but eventually, 1 year later, so earlier this year, UB and Loma came to me and told me that they were sharing similar philosophy, vision for the group. And we wanted a 4-person, and Krina is maybe the person I trust the most in this market. One of the very few people from trading from crypto that I've met in real life. And we went for it. So the main goal of the group is, as I said, educational. We definitely don't want it to be seen nor treated as a senior group, because there are already a ton of them, and we don't think this is where the value is for members. So it's mostly and mainly educational content shared on each of us, because Krina and I have very similar trading system, but we have different kinds with Loma and Newbie, and we try to give different perspective of the market, what we are looking for, why, what we are expecting based on our trading systems. We try to help people get better at trading habits, trading, how to scan, how to the importance of taking its time, things like this. That might sound easy for many people, but that would have personally helped me a lot if I had that back in the days. And yeah.
Okay, Pierre, that sounds awesome. Really cool project you and Loma and Krillin and Yubi have taken on. I really like that you said it's more education focused than signal focused. Personally, I struggle to see why anyone would actually sell or give signals, and how that makes sense logically as a profitable venture for both parties. But yeah, the educational side sounds really cool. How have you found trying to teach newer traders to trade? What are the common errors you see that maybe our listeners can try avoid and learn from?
I think that one of the common mistakes, I would say, that we have seen and discussed with members a lot recently is that many people tend to enter, many new people or many new traders, I would say, especially in a market where everything is going so fast like crypto, they tend to enter trades without a proper trading system, without a proper trading plan, without a clear invalidation, a clear risk management. And I know it's something that more experienced traders just keep on saying and saying, and that's because it's the most important part of your trading system. And yeah, I would say that one thing that really not shocked me, but that I see constantly and that I keep on repeating, there are two things I would say. The first one is so many people are entering their setups without a clear invalidation, which means that they very often tend to say, okay, it's going against me, but maybe it's just a dip and maybe it will bounce. And if I sell here and it bounces, I'm going to be mad because I would have sold the bottom or whatever. Because when they entered, they didn't have a clear invalidation. They didn't have a clear plan, which they should have followed initially. And
It's not just the invalidation, though. You also mentioned they got mad, which brings in the mental game as well.
Exactly. That comes with that, because the second part is also, but on the other way around, taking profits. Many people don't have plans on taking profits, and they eventually they have unrealized profits that they never realize. I would say that they never cash out, and yeah, and this is also a second part, as you just said, and that I think that it's one thing that some of our members that have been really active in the group have finally understood and make things better for them is that if you enter a setup and you have a clear invalidation, you have clear taking profits targets, you know how you want to manage your trade. Like, let's say if all my take profits targets are hit, I want to leave 30% of the initial position run as a moon bag or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you're set up, and your risk is managed, and you know exactly how much you're willing to lose and how much you're going to make if your targets are hit, you shouldn't even care about the setup anymore. You should basically just turn your computer off and wait for the notifications of the trades or whatever. I know some traders are very fluid with their trades, and they enter, they remove, they add. I don't believe it's fitting for a lot of new traders. People should just stick to static trading plans, in my opinion. If you do that, it should remove a lot of stress off of your trading. So I would say that this is definitely one of the things we are working on in the Haven. Obviously, besides classic technical analysis and how to use, at least how we use moving averages, or we spot the resistances, supports, what can sound basic, but very often need to be reviewed because so many people actually, I think what I want to say is that one of the things we work the most on is mostly correcting bad habits.
I see what you mean with the correcting bad habits, like something like the static trading, which you mentioned, that kind of automatically fixes a lot of bad habits, like emotional mistakes you can make while waiting for a trade to finish. If you've got your set plan and you exit, well, you have to stick to it. The only way you can not do it, you can make an emotional mistake after entry is if you disobey the direct instruction your teachers at the Haven have given you, which is to stick to a static plan. But so a year ago, I would have 100% agreed with you. I would say, Pierre, yeah, absolutely. Static plans are the way to go. It doesn't make sense to change afterwards because it's so hard to backtest that and incorporate it into your data. But then there's the other side of the argument, which says, well, if there's new price data, it's information you're choosing to deliberately ignore. And this year, something which really changed my trading a lot is I started paying attention to the fundamentals. Someone who I look up to a lot said, listen, like, you can be a robotic trader and that's fine, but you're wasting your potential of experience and having a good understanding of the industry, which can give you a huge discretionary edge on top of the robotic elements to your system.
I couldn't agree more, and it's actually one of my good friend in the market told me too. I think it was XO that I was talking about that with XO, that just recently opened a YouTube channel about technical analysis and fundamental analysis. One thing many people didn't knew him for. I agree with that, and this is also something I'm working on. I'm trying to be. I think that during the bear market, I took the habit to trade mostly off of technical analysis, and it was kind of relevant to the current context of the market because very few fundamental news were able to change the path of the trend. But in a bull market, as like we are, and in a place where like there is like 10 new projects per day, you actually, and I agree with you, you need to work on your fundamental analysis part. Even that doesn't mean you need to be a good programmer. You need to know how to code in a. You don't need to be an expert in blockchain, but that you need at least to have basics understandings of things you trade. At least tokenomics, I would say. And this is something I'm really working on for the last, I've been working a lot about that for the last, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months, I would say. But yeah, I agree. And that often makes your trades, our trades are very fundamentals sensible, I would say. Like, for example, one bad or good news can completely ruin a chart. I definitely agree with that. But I would say that when you speak with someone that is not experienced in trading and that is at least trying to understand a bit more what he's doing. I think that trying to avoid too much noise can be good for them. And I would say that if fundamentals are very important, things go so fast in our market that I think some new traders and some new people in this market tend to think, especially when they arrived in a bull market, they tend to think fundamental analysis are enough for them to trade and make money in crypto. I think
because they watch a YouTube video, they buy a coin,
yeah,
it goes up,
exactly.
and they think they're a fundamental expert.
Exactly. I think the correct term would be that you need to find a balance. You need to find the correct balance between understanding the charts, but also understanding the tokenomics, understanding the partners of the project. I think you have a good point there.
Yeah, you need that. I think you also made a very good point with regards to it's noise until it's not noise. So a lot of people bring it in later into their trading career because your experience only adds value to your system when you have experience, which obviously makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And also I think that there are sometimes how can I say that? I think there are some market contexts that are making it easier to focus on something else than trading. Like for example, when everything is going up, when we have some sort of crazy bull market, like we had since March, April, basically, you can be entirely focused on charts and try to get everything, or you can take some time off, ride the trend with some cozy long positions or whatever, and take some time to be ahead of the rest and try to find the next trending thing. That's a bit complicated because narratives tends to be shorter and shorter recently. Every time there's a new narrative, it can last even sometimes only a day or two. But I think depending on the market context, you should consider taking more or less time on fundamental and on technical analysis. It's all about balance.
So Pierre, how do you do it all? You've got you're running the Haven, you're trading. You just told me you keep up to date with the news, which I know can take hours every single day, which is actually why have I given you access to Market Meditations, my newsletter yet?
I'm not quite sure yet.
Okay, well, I'll make sure to do that. Basically, it's 3 times a week. I give a review of everything that's going on in the market, and I think it can genuinely deliver value. All events, it gives calendars for everything to look out for, so maybe something to save you time. And going into it, I want to know about your time management, man. How do you manage to have a full-time job, run the Haven, trade, keep up to date with the news, and obviously have a life as well all around that?
So I think the answer is in several parts and for several reasons. I think the first thing to say is that I'm passionate about not only trading, but by this community and this space as a whole. Like, I don't think I would be dedicated that much if I was trading stocks, because I'm not particularly passionate about Amazon or Apple. But I'm actually fascinated by Bitcoin. I'm actually very interested by this entire community, this entire space industry, and how it wants to evolve. So that passion always makes it easier to find time, I would say. But then how I do, well, I think that I've built my training system off of that. Like, this is another common mistake some new traders tend to do. They tend to adapt their lifestyles to their trades, while it should be the opposite. You should adapt your trades to your lifestyle. And I've tried for a long time to, for example, day trade scalps, like I've seen my favorite traders on crypto Twitter do, until I finally realized that it wasn't meant for me. And as long as I wanted to do the job I do outside of trading crypto, I would need to adapt my trading style. Most of my trades are swing trades. I'm rarely in a trade for less than a day or two. Obviously, depending on if it goes against me or whatever, but uh, it means that I don't spend that much time per day managing my positions, and only that free me some time for my educational content, for watching the news and things like this. But yeah, obviously, I won't lie. I have a regular day for me is between 12 to 14 hours per work per day.
And is that 7 days a week?
Well, it's 5 days a week for my job, and on the thing is, I rarely trade, sorry, on weekends. So on weekends, either I take some time off because it's necessary. Either I catch up with the news of the week, or I catch up with the content I was not able to make during the week. For now, I'm actually doing quite all right because my full-time job is very cyclical. I can work 7 hours per day for months, and it doesn't take me that much time. And sometimes I'm gonna have big projects to deliver, and I'm gonna work 10 hours per day at this work. So I think I found the balance, and it works fine for me. I could quit my job, but I actually like doing it, and it brings a social aspect to my life that I don't want to quit to right now. I'm basically working with some of my best friends, so it makes everything easier too. So yeah.
Would you be comfortable talking a little bit about your full-time job?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No problem. Well, I'm an ICT engineer in Lyon, in France. I basically work on every aspect of the projects I work on. I work a bit on the technical part. I am at first an engineer, but I also work on the entire sales and commercial part with partners, clients, things like this. So yeah, it's quite a cool job, a very cool job, I would say.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I take pleasure doing it, and it's not a question of should I quit this job or not. It's more of a question of do I want to make a choice yet. I think I will eventually have to, especially because I would love to work in the crypto industry eventually, or just work off of my trading or whatever. But I think eventually the choice is going to go for the crypto industry. But as of today, I can manage to do both, and I guess I'm fine with that. I'm not complaining. So as long as the day I will start complaining, I will most likely tell myself, shut the fuck up and do something else. But for now, it's all right.
Nice. Do you often keep that stoic mindset with things? Like complaining is just such a useless activity.
I'm French, sir, so complaining is part of our life. And I would say that as I'm surrounded by people basically complaining all day, I try to tell myself, if you start doing so, just make a change. But yeah, I'm French, so yeah.
Well, do you as well? Because personally, I find with complaining, it damages you and everyone around you.
Exactly.
Like on a level, I know you're definitely joking to some extent, but when there's a problem, it's time to look for a solution. Complaining just makes you feel worse, and the person you're complaining to feel worse.
Well, that's one of the main reasons I've always wanted to be an engineer, and one of the reasons I like it. Solving just problems, basically.
Solutions,
But I'm living in a country where complaining is a national sport. So I tend to be quite annoyed by people complaining, which is ironic. So I try not to.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but my ethnic background is actually Iranian. So both my parents are Iranian, and it's also reasonably in the culture there as well. So I can definitely vibe with you, bro.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you do outside of trading crypto and your job? What are your passions and interests?
Um, Before crypto took basically all the free time I had in my life, I was a hardcore Counter-Strike player and football player. And I mean football as the real football, not the American football,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
the real one. So yeah, I would say Counter-Strike and football were two big part of my life before crypto. Unfortunately, I don't have much time for that anymore. Even if I try to, I play football still 2 times per week, but for example, I don't have time for Counter Strike anymore. That would be one of the few things I would be happy to be able to do again. If someday I find a way to have a little bit more free time.
When you say hardcore, do you mean you were pro for Counter Strike or just very competitive?
I wouldn't say pro. No, no, no. I was playing at a decent level
Mhm.
in between 2008 and 2012, a little bit before Counter-Strike Global Offensive came out. But no, no. I would say that just like in football, I've reached a level where I could basically play every day, 24 hours per day, for my life that I would never get at a professional level. Like I've reached my skill gap level, I would
Genetic
say.
peak, man. I know about that. I don't know how closely you follow my Twitter, but I absolutely adore calisthenics and Olympic
Yeah,
rings gymnastics. And I mean, when you train 24, like when you go to those extreme levels of training, eventually you realize like what your body is capable of and what someone else who does that exact same training is capable of.
exactly, exactly. Well, when I was in high school, I was doing in France what we call basically sports studies. Like you have sometimes managed so you can have training between courses, between classes. And yeah, it's at this time that I realized that I could basically do the same trainings that my mates on my left and work as hard as he does. At the end of the day, he's just more talented. And but that's also the beauty of it. It's like
Mhm.
it means that these are fields. When you work in the field and you realize you get to the point where you could work harder and it could work out, you could get to a very very good level only by being a try harder. But it's there. I think there's some form of beauty that knowing that someone is just naturally better than you, or you can be naturally better than someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, and I love that we've taken the conversation here because it's a topic I can really resonate with you on because it's not just the body either. You can
Yeah,
take one human to another human and see how vastly different their bodies are, bro. Imagine how different the brains are as well. So
yeah,
every
exactly,
field you
exactly.
apply, like that's probably the reason why you are naturally very good at trading. Like someone else who's put the exact same hours into trading that you have may have half the results.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as you just said, the brain is a much more complicated part of our body than our
Mm-hmm.
muscles, definitely. So yeah, it's easy to imagine that there are some differences between the ways our brains work. But so yeah, yeah. This is why I think to come back to the educational part, this is why I tend to think that you need, if you want to be good at trading, not necessarily good, but if you want to understand things you are facing and things you are trying to, if you basically want to beat the market, because being profitable in trading is beating the market, you need to have hardcore solid basis. And that's something you can be teach. That's something you can teach to someone. You can teach to someone to have solid basis, solid educational background. But as you said, at the end of the day, we're all different. We all have different emotions. There is nothing that will beat screen time, and nothing that will beat time you're willing to give to the market, even if it's only to realize that you're not made for it. Like I know many people that I used to trade with between 2018 and 2000 and this year. we went from actively trading to investing to looking for fundamentals, looking for other things, looking for another edge than trading because they realized they were not made for it, despite spending 10 hours per day on it. So I think, and I actually think that sports, esports, and trading are very related things, in my opinion.
Dude, I agree so hard. So many people I know who are fantastic traders used to be fantastic gamers. It's that
Exactly.
strategy part. And I know I haven't played Counter-Strike, but I know the level of strategy that goes into Counter-Strike. That is a complex game with some high-level thinking involved. So I imagine that translates really nicely when you came into trading. And to take a step back to what we were saying, I don't want any listeners to go now and say, I can't be good at this because of my genetics. That is absolutely what we're saying. We're saying find your strengths, because if you know your strengths, you can play to get more ROI on things you do. So if you're a trader, now somewhere like The Haven can teach you the basics, or go on my YouTube channel and watch a video. If you want something more handheld, paced. So that's what you pay for, isn't it? When you go, you want a faster, more direct, more personal service. There are free resources out there, but you can pay for quality to get a more personalized service. And that'll teach you the basics. And then through self-awareness and understanding yourself, that's when you can start expanding and going towards the right direction. If you're like someone who needs quick dopamine and doesn't have a lot of patience, maybe you should go more towards scalping. If you're someone like you, Pierre, who has a really busy life and doesn't have that much time to spend on trading, well, they should go more to the swing side.
Exactly. And this is why I think people who went in the Haven, who spend time in the Haven, are actually enjoying, is that, as I was saying earlier, Yubi, Loma, Krila, and I have 4 different ways of trading, 4 different perspectives. Some of us are full-time, some are not, which means that with the 4 of us, you can pick whatever you want, whatever might be good for you, whatever fits your lifestyle better, whatever fits your risk management better. And I think this applies to crypto Twitter as a whole. I think it's a wonderful tool to find a few things here and there in each of the people you follow, things you want to apply, things you want to see if that works for you. And I think it's very interesting. And you're right. It's I don't believe you can find 2 people trading exactly the same way, even if they are using the same indicators, the same volume. Sometimes Krila and I, while both using quite similar trading systems, we can be in the same trade, and when we discuss it afterwards, we realize that our motivations and our validation, for example, even despite using same indicators, can be different. The approach can be different. Everything can be different with the same end result. And this is what I like about trading. I love every week I try to have guests in the Haven to discuss markets. And during the last few weeks, I had the chance to have Ixo speaking with us in the group about his trading style a bit more, what he's looking for, and things like this. And what I found fascinating is that we very often came to the same conclusion, watching the exact same things, yet with 2 completely different trading systems and focuses. And this is what I really like. It's a bit like in mathematics or in physics, but it's more true in mathematics. Sometimes when you want to prove something, when you want to prove a theorem of something like this, you can go from so many different ways. Like in programming, you can code something so many different ways and coming up with the same results. And I think it's one of the most interesting parts in trading. And
it's why I get I have a negative reaction towards anyone trying to argue over someone's analysis. It just shows a fundamental misunderstanding of trading. The goal isn't to look right on Twitter or to have the best argument. The goal is to stick to your system and make money. That's what we're all out here trying to do. No one's trading because they're charitable. The point of trading is to make money, and it doesn't matter how you use it. Heck, if you want to use smoke signals, to
Yeah,
determine if it's really going to work.
exactly,
Go ahead. I
exactly.
don't.
If you use Elliott waves and that works for you, and you can do it every day on every trade, and so be it. I don't care. If that
Yeah.
works for you, that's perfectly fine. If you can trade without even looking at the charts, good for you too. Like, it doesn't matter. And it's also something experienced traders say, is that, do you prefer to be right or do you prefer to make money? And it's something some new traders and traders I speak with, while talking in absolutes about the markets, about their trades, often forget, is that at the end of the day, you can have the best trading system you want. The market decides. That's just how it is. Good luck with
Yeah, I mean,
that.
if you're talking in absolutes, you better have your entire net worth on whatever position you're talking about, you know?
Yeah, definitely. If you're that sure of yourself, the risk management should be obvious to you, and the risk reward should be infinity, because you are absolutely right, which is just impossible, and you will eventually learn it the hard way, just like we all did. uh,
Yeah.
it will eventually
But
happen.
there's two types of traders: those who have been humbled by the market and those who are about to be humbled by the market.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly,
it's how
exactly.
it is. Unless you're one extreme anomaly that's really lucky, but yeah, chances are you won't be. So, Pierre, outside of training, how active are you with your investing, or do you invest at all?
I would say that I have a very basic approach. I basically buy Bitcoin. I'm not expanding my investing a lot. I'm basically just buying Bitcoin on a regular basis, every week, basically, especially when in current market conditions. This is not something I was doing in 2019, for example. Uh, as long as I'm bullish long term, I just keep buying Bitcoin on a separate account that I trade with, and I basically don't touch it. And I just try not to think about it. It's on my cold wallet, and I will eventually get rid of that once my higher time frame BAs gets bearish again.
Do you invest outside of crypto too?
No, but this is amongst the thing that I want to spend some time to work on. Um, for example, I'm currently looking to buy a flat in my city. Um, if you consider that as investing, but beside that, I'm not invested in stock market or things like this. But this is something I've been working on for the last 2-3 months, and eventually something that I try to implement and that I try to be a little bit more serious about in 2021. This is one of my personal goal, um, diversifying a bit outside of crypto. Not necessarily because I believe other markets can provide more than crypto, but also because I think it's important as a trader to be curious and to look for other opportunities. So
I
yeah,
mean, the serious wealth is built through compound interest over time,
yeah,
making long term bright decisions. And you don't even need to be that right. As long as you diversify, compound interest will take care of the rest. So, absolutely highly advise getting on that yesterday, because 1 year of compound interest when you're at year 40 or year 50, I mean, you're an
yeah,
engineer, you know how much money we're talking there. So, definitely get on that. And feel free to reach out in the DMs, bro, because it's something I'm hugely into and have been doing now for, how long is it, 7 years. So yeah, happy to chat with you on that anytime.
well,
I love that you're taking initiative. That's like more than 99% of people.
yeah, well, it's easier. I think that first, thank you, and I will not forget that. And second, it's also because I'm surrounded by people who are actually doing it and who are trying to diversify, and um, obviously it gives you ideas, and seeing them doing well,
Yeah.
obviously that makes you want to go there. But yeah, with pleasure. I think it's important. I think it's important because you can be being focused on only one industry and mainly and entirely focused on one industry. can be a little bit negative, I would say, or maybe it can blind you a little bit about all the context of the markets.
It's also arrogant because you're assuming you're right enough to pick the winner long term, and you're smarter than everyone else, which is always dangerous in the markets.
Well, yeah, usually when you start thinking that way, it rarely ends well. So yeah, definitely.
Right, Pierre. I've got a fun question to slowly draw a close this podcast.
Okay.
You get a choice. So you can tell me either the trade you are least proud of, one that absolutely wrecked you, or you can tell us the trade you are most proud of. Now, this doesn't have to be the one that made the most money. It can be the one that was really satisfying or was funny. So the floor is yours. Take your time to think about a cool trade you'd like to share.
I think I can share both. I think one of the trade I'm the most ashamed of, I would say, must be Ripple in early 2018.
You're the fourth person to say that on this podcast.
Yeah, I think I'm not the first one to say that. But the reason I'm so ashamed about it is because I luckily got in December around 20 to 30 cents, a little bit less than that, and basically rode it all the way to $3, only to see absolutely all the people I know in this market already back then telling me, dude, just why are you still holding that? It's been doing times 10. Bitcoin is actually, for the first time in a very long time, showing signs of macro weaknesses. Take your profits and get away from that. And I've ended up selling most of my owned a little bit below $1, which is today quite okay, but at the end of the day, it was a catastrophe. And I think the reason I hate this trade is because it puts me in such a negative mental place that it killed my trading for the next 6 months, which were brutal in the markets. Because it was the beginning of the bear market. It was just the worst time ever to get into that mentality. And I think the trade I am the most proud of is from last year. It's Seal. I don't know if you know this altcoin. I'll be honest, I have absolutely no idea what it does. I have never ever went to what could be the website or whatever. But in 2019, we were sniping a lot of trades on UOB with Krillin, Nika, and a few other friends. And Seal ended up being the best crypto asset of the year with something close to times 30 or times 35, something like this.
Amazing.
And basically about the range bottom compression and sold for times 20 in a year that altcoins were not doing that great, without repeating the mistake of a lot of trades I did in 2017 and 2018. So yeah, I think that's one I'm the most proud.
So you didn't hold them way too long and got out at a fat multiple.
The reason I like this trade that much is because this was the first time I was trusting my system fully, and that I was just exiting a position, taking profits once I realized the trend was getting weaker, without even looking back. And this was the first time I realized, like, okay, you did some. You come from a long place, like you started to get better at that. And it was a real trigger for me because from there, 2019 and 2020, I've been completely crazy.
Dude, Pierre, those were some brilliant trades to share. Thank you.
One more brilliant than the other, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Brilliant in terms of entertainment value. The XRP one definitely was a brilliant execution. But no. I held OMG from 2017 so long, and it just went down and down and down, and I just wouldn't sell because my mind was like, no, I'm either making money on this or it's going to zero. You just get into that little loop. But it was a nice tax write-off, so that was the good benefit there.
Yeah.
On a level, thank you for joining me, man. You've been a fantastic host. You've been fascinating. Thanks for teaching us about moving averages, sharing what you do on the Haven, talking a little bit about Counter-Strike as well, which I enjoyed that detour, the mindset segment, all amazing. Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap this podcast up?
First, I would say thank you for inviting me. That was very nice, very fun, very insightful. And I would just like to say one more time that trading is fucking hard. Indicators are not magic. There are no magic indicators. Nothing will replace time screen, and pay yourself, take your time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Market Meditations podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like us to continue bringing you fascinating people from across the world, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you like to listen to these podcasts, and share the episode with a friend. If you have feedback or an idea for a potential guest, reach out to me on Twitter at KaroushAK, and do not forget we write a newsletter covering all important topics in crypto and traditional markets. We send it out 3 times a week. The Market Meditations newsletter. You also get early access to these episodes, and you get transcripts and extra notes as well, so make sure to subscribe there as well.